They called him a musician, but Vienna was about to find out he was really a storm with a piano. Late 1700s, the city is the polished jewel of Europe, full of powdered wigs and polite sonatas. Then a carriage door swings open, and out steps a young man in his early 20s with messy brown hair, a slightly rumpled coat, and the look of someone who refuses to wait for an invitation. Ludwig van Beethoven, not wealthy, but talented enough to make the right people start opening their doors. And once they heard him play, those doors rarely closed again. He doesn't perform the way Vienna expects. No dainty tea-sipping melodies. He attacks the keys like the instrument personally offended him. The sound is bold, unpredictable, and impossible to ignore. Before long, whispers ripple through salons and concert halls. Have you heard the new guy? He's intense. Which, in Vienna speak, means we're not sure if we're impressed or terrified. At parties, Beethoven will grin, sit at the piano, and unleash something so fierce that half the room bursts into applause, and the other half starts wondering if they should update their will. He hasn't even unpacked his bags, but Vienna will never sound the same again. Beethoven treats music like a battlefield. Every note is a weapon, every pause a trap. When he arrives in Vienna, he studies under Joseph Haydn, the biggest name in music at the time. It's like joining the Jedi Order, if the Jedi wore powdered wigs. But it doesn't take long for people to realize Beethoven isn't here to be anyone's apprentice forever. He takes what Haydn teaches, cranks up the volume, and throws in a few musical punches nobody saw coming. At the piano, he doesn't just play, he attacks, leaning in so hard you'd think the instrument owed him money. Sometimes he plays so fiercely, he breaks strings mid-performance, then keeps going like nothing happened. Offstage, he's just as intense, storming Vienna's streets with a pocket notebook, stopping mid-step to scribble ideas like he's just intercepted divine instructions. Bird calls, church bells, a cart rattling over cobblestones. All of it goes in. His desk, a glorious mess of ink blots, coffee stains, and sketches that look like they were written during an earthquake. And Vienna, used to music as polite background noise, is suddenly falling in love with chaos. It starts small, a faint ringing, notes that sound like they're being played from the other side of a wall. By his late 20s, Beethoven faces the truth. His hearing is fading. For a composer, that's like telling a chef he's losing his taste buds. At first, he hides it, leaning in during conversations, smiling and nodding at jokes he didn't hear, avoiding crowded rooms where voices blur into mush. Inside, though, he's panicking. What happens when the thing that defines you starts slipping away? The obvious choice would be to slow down, to protect what's left. Beethoven picks the least obvious choice. He works faster, harder, as if daring the silence to catch up. Because to him, music isn't just about hearing, it's about feeling the vibrations in the wood of the piano. It's the rhythm of footsteps, the pulse in your chest. If his ears won't listen, his bones will. By now his hearing is in ruins, but his music, it's louder, braver, and more emotional than ever. Beethoven starts breaking musical rules like he's speed-running a rebellion. Wild swings from thundering power to moments so delicate you'd think the piece might shatter. Vienna doesn't get it. How is he doing this? The truth. He's not writing what is. He's writing what should be. In his head, the orchestra is crystal clear. He hears every note exactly where it should land, even if his ears betray him. He scribbles furiously, muttering to himself, waving away mistakes like flies. Sometimes he slams the paper down so hard, it's a miracle the ink stays put. The man who can't hear properly is teaching the world how to really listen, which is either inspiring or just plain unfair to the rest of us. By his 40s, Beethoven is almost completely deaf. Conversations happen through conversation books. Friends write, he replies out loud. It's like texting, but painfully slow and made of paper. And then he decides to write his biggest, boldest symphony yet. One with a choir at the end, something no one had dared before. They call it the Ninth. He calls it Tuesday. At its 1824 premiere, Beethoven conducts, completely unaware the orchestra has finished playing. A soprano gently turns him around so he can see it. The audience, clapping and cheering like the roof's about to come off. For once, the storm on his face clears. Vienna isn't just applauding the music. They're applauding the fight. Even sick and deaf, Beethoven won't stop composing. His desk looks like the aftermath of a paper factory explosion. Sketches piled high, ink stains everywhere. When he's not writing, he's walking for hours in the countryside, feeling the wind, watching storms roll in like old friends. Nature's been part of his music since the beginning, and now it's one of the few things he can still experience without effort. In March 1827, at age 56, illness wins. That evening, a violent thunderstorm shakes Vienna. Friends later claimed a deafening clap of thunder boomed at the very moment he took his final breath. Whether it's coincidence or fate, it's the kind of ending Beethoven would have approved of. Tens of thousands fill the streets for his funeral. The same city that once didn't know what to make of him now treats him like a national monument. Beethoven's life proves that talent is only half the story. The other half? Stubbornness. The kind that refuses to shut up, even when the world goes silent. He broke rules, annoyed aristocrats, and occasionally made party guests fear for their lives with a single chord. And somehow, it worked. 2 centuries later, his music still shakes concert halls, still makes strangers lean forward, still forces people to feel. Maybe that's his greatest symphony, not the ones he wrote, but the idea that no matter what tries to stop you, you don't let it. Because Beethoven didn't just compose music, he composed defiance.